honored guests. A few questions. How many words do you think there are in the English language?
10,000?
20,000? 20,000? Okay. Well, maybe a little surprised. Between 350 and 1 million, they say, depending on how you count them. For example, table and tables, if you consider it a different word. And how many words do you think an average native speaker, a college graduate, like Michael?
I am not average.
Above average.
Yes.
How many words do you think
Thousand?
that person might know?
40,000.
1,000.
5,000.
About 20,000 words they might know. So let's talk about coverage. Coverage means how many words you know. And when the computers became a tool, when they started around 20 years ago, linguists seized upon that. This is a new way we can analyze our language. And what they did was they started scanning in huge amounts of English text, and they would use the computer to count the words and see which words were the most frequently used words. And what they came up with was word frequency lists. And they found that one word was the most frequent, 7% of the words in English. Another word, the top 10 were 25%, top 100, 50%, 1,000, 2,000, 5,000. Those 2,000 and 5,000 words are very important. So if you know 2,000 words, you'll understand 80% of the words used in English language. And they started analyzing the way people use the language and how many words they knew. And of course, if you know 350,000 words, which nobody does, because they include a lot of technical words, then you'll know everything. Well, the top word is the word the. And 7% of the words in English are the, and this is how the list goes. The problem is that students in Korea and Japan especially, they don't know enough high-frequency words. High-frequency words means words within the top 2,000. And that's a big problem. And let's talk about why that is true. Before we do, what percentage of words in a text do you think you need to know before you can understand the text? Well, let's take a look. This is 75%. Do you think you could understand that? Imagine that you don't understand the underlines. I think nobody can understand it. Well, let's try 85%. Can you understand it?
You can understand.
Maybe a little, but I think if I ask you what it was really about, you'd have a hard time. Actually, the linguists have decided that it's not till you get to 95% of the words that you can really get the gist or the meaning of a text without a dictionary. Okay? So we have vocabulary thresholds, and what they found was that at 80%, if you understand 80% of the words of a text, you will not be able to understand the text, even with a dictionary. Because the dictionary meaning is a little vague, and you're getting interrupted. It just becomes a looking up exercise. And the other one is 95% is the place where you can understand a text without a dictionary. So this is the critical areas that we're working with. Now the problem is that reading materials in Korea and Japan are too difficult. And let's talk about why. They teach the first 1,000 words quite well in the middle school. But then, when they get to high school, what they do is they start preparing for the TOEIC and the TOEFL test. And in order to differentiate the students who know really, really well English really well, they will test very difficult words. And students start studying words not in the top 2,000, but 4,000, 5,000, 10,000, 11,000, 20,000 range. And I see students studying these vocabulary books, which I'm sure some of you have studied, with really crazy words in them. So let's introduce a tool, a computer tool called LexiTutor, which will let you analyze how difficult the words are. And I'll show you some places. I'll show you how to use it in just a minute. But here's some text. This is a graded reader, which means a simplified reader. It's at 98%. It's the way it should be. This is an average English newspaper, like from the Korea Herald. It's 87%, so students would have a hard time reading it. 80% is Time magazine, even more difficult. And look at this, Harry Potter, 95, almost 95%, which means that students can understand it if they know the top 2,000 words. And here's one I just put in, which was the Toastmaster mission. It's at 84%. So let's just quickly, let me just quickly show you Lexa Tutor. And it's right here. And if you want to try to use it, you click on this one here. And what you do is you put in your text. And here I found an article about Sam Gipsal. I'm going to just slip it in there. And you just put it in the text. And then you submit, and you'll get immediately that this article has about, let's see, only 60%. Oh, 74%, I'm sorry. 74% in the top 1,000 and about 80%. So too hard for an average high school student. Okay, well let's continue. So this shows that the texts that they're using in Japanese and Korean high schools are often more difficult than a native speaker text. You see here 77%, which is even harder than Time magazine, because they're preparing for these tests. And if you look at the Japanese university, the test goes way down to 69%. Well, that's crazy. They're just preparing for the test. By the way, here are some of the words that they have on the test. And you native speakers will be surprised. Can you tell me what pitch blend means? No. Peter? No. Lapidus? I've never heard of these words. So you can find out which high frequency words the students don't know. And there are some places on the internet where you can study that, where you can get that. Like this. They test a word. If you know it, it gets to a harder word. If you know that, it gets harder. And if you know that, it gets harder. But there are little words that don't even exist, just to make sure you're not cheating or lying. And then it'll give you a full analysis, and it will predict which words you know and which you don't. So you can use also Lexa Tutor in order to make a graded reader, to simplify your text. And all you do to do that is put the text in Lexa Tutor, and you look at the words that are too difficult. These red words are outside the range. So you just simplify it. And that would simplify your text. So if you have kids or if you have students that you're teaching, don't give them a text at 80%. They're not going to be able to get it at all. Okay, just to finish up. The conclusion is that teaching for the test, boo, bad idea. It's really destructive. Students cannot get the flow of English. And teach the top 2,000 words first. You can use this program or other ones to check reading difficulty, and you can also use it to grade the text, make it simpler. So let me finish up with simplified mission statement. The purpose of a Toastmaster Club is to provide a commonly supportive and great learning place in which every member has the opportunity to develop speaking, listening, and leadership skills, which in turn helps self-confidence and personal growth 100% in the top 2,000 words. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. That was a very educational speech, yeah, for improving our English skills.